What's going on, guys? Jake Peffer here with Jake's Cinema Room. I am back with another movie review for you. Today I'm going to be looking at the movie Barbarian, which I got to see an advanced screening of last night, but it comes out in theaters this Friday, September 9th. If you're not familiar with the movie, Barbarian is about a young woman that rents out an Airbnb. When she arrives there, she finds that there's already someone else that has also rented out the Airbnb, a young man named Keith, who's played by Bill Skarsgård. The woman is named Tess, and she's played by Georgina Campbell. Basically, they're both confused. They set up different appointments through different websites and somehow were able to book the same days. Keith is nice enough to let her come in and kind of get a little settled and try to find a room elsewhere in the city, but she's unable to find anything. So he tells her, hey, you know what, just stay the night. We'll take care of this in the morning, call the people and try to figure this thing out. She's a little hesitant at first because she's not sure if she can trust this guy or not, but eventually ends up staying. And essentially there ends up being a little bit more to this house than either one of them thought there would be. And that's about as far as I can go really on the plot without spoiling too much. This is a movie that you definitely want to avoid any spoilers going in, because there is so much that happens in this, and anything that gets spoiled is just going to kind of ruin it a little bit, because this is a movie that is so unpredictable, and that's one of the best aspects of it, is how unpredictable it can be. Once you think you kind of have it figured out and you think it's going to go one way, something else happens and it goes in a completely different direction, and everything, including the kitchen sink, gets thrown at you to the point where you just, by the end, literally have no idea where this movie is going to go. And it ends up being quite a thrill ride, and a crazy one at that. But it is, without question, one of the best movies of 2022. And this has been a really great year for horror movies. I mean, between this, you had X earlier this year, which was good. The Black Phone, which was fantastic. Nope was really good. Orphan First Kill. And now adding Barbarian to the list. This has really been a strong year for horror movies. And Barbarian is quite possibly the most insane of the bunch. And that's saying a lot, because between those other four, I mean, they all had in their own right some crazy stuff going on in them, but this one kind of takes a cake. It, like I said, it's just throwing everything in the wall and trying so much, and thankfully for the most part everything here works really well. It's a tense ride because, like I said, with it being so unpredictable, you really have no idea where it's going to go, and that just adds on to how intense and frightening some of the moments are when it gets to those points. It's an interesting setup too, because it takes a while for the movie to get going. The first 30 to 40 minutes, it's almost kind of like a romance movie as you watch Keith and Tess basically kind of build a little bit of a relationship over the course of time before we really get into any horror stuff. Yeah, they drop a few little jump scares here and there, but outside of that, you're really not, it's really not that all that much of a horror movie to begin with. Once it gets going, though, it hits the throttle and never lets up. And that's one of the best parts of this movie is when it's getting into the crazy stuff, it really gets into it. And it is something that it's hard to even describe realistically. But I would definitely, if you're interested in this movie, definitely avoid any trailers. It did seem like the one trailer that I watched for this didn't really seem to give anything away. It was pretty good at kind of just showing enough to get you interested and be like, well, that looks like something I might want to see. But it seems to be like with newer horror movies, the first trailer kind of does that, sets up something nice and gets you interested, but usually they drop a second trailer like the week before it comes out, and that's the one that spoils a lot of it. So I would say just avoid it at any cost and just go into the movie fresh, because that's going to give you the best experience overall. This cast, there's not a whole lot of characters in this movie. You really have three central characters, two of which I already named in Bill Skarsgård and Georgina Campbell, but you also have Justin Long, who plays a crucial part in the movie as well. I won't really get into too much as far as how his character is involved and everything, because that'll kind of spoil a little bit. But just know that those are basically your three central characters, and they all give great performances. They are really the backbone of the movie. Bill Skarsgård, this is one of his more reserved roles that I've seen from him. Most everybody knows him as Pennywise the Clown from the two It movies, and he's definitely playing a much different role in this, but he does a really good job, and it's good to see him in something like this where he's not just playing a psychotic, crazy character, and he does a really good job with it. Justin Long is a bit of a standout here, because this is definitely a role unlike we've ever seen from him. He's been in some horror movies, he's in those first two Jeepers Creepers movies, and he's also in like Drag Me to Hell, which is a pretty fun horror movie, kind of horror comedy. So he's had some experience in the horror genre, but this movie, he's playing a character that's essentially kind of a douchebag, and he plays it really well. But when they get into some of the more tense moments, he definitely sells it really well. He's doing a great job, and it's good to see him in a role like this where he's kind of branching out from his normal stuff that he does. But the person carrying this movie for sure is Georgina Campbell, who I haven't really been familiar with. When I looked up some of the stuff she's been in, it's a lot of TV and a few movies here and there, but this is her movie without a doubt. She is carrying this, and she carries it well. She kind of joins a list of all the great scream queens, because she is an amazing actress just based off this one performance I've seen from her, and she really does a great job in this role and just making you really care about her character and hoping that she somehow makes it to the end of this movie. All in all, there's really not a whole lot to dislike here. There's a couple things here and there, as far as there's a few moments where the movie has some tonal shifts, because surprisingly, even though this is a crazy horror movie, there is a lot of comedy in here, and there's a point in the movie about halfway through where it kind of jumps to a point where it almost feels like a completely different movie, but once they tie it all back in, it works out really well. But at first it's a little jarring, so to some people it might kind of throw them off a little bit. And there's a character that gets introduced at one point who they're given some good backstory on, but it almost feels like they drop that and kind of don't really flesh it out a little bit more, which would have been nice to see. This is a movie that surprisingly could have used maybe another 10 to 15 minutes just to flesh out a little bit more backstory on a couple characters, and I think it actually would have improved the movie overall. But with what we get, it's still enough to get by, because this movie's not predicated on just character development. There's a lot more going on, but the character development we do get from these characters actually still works very well, and like I said, it gives you enough about them to make you care and want to see them make it through to the end. But yeah, that's really about it. Overall, I would say Barbarian is a solid 8 out of 10. It's a thrill ride. It's a crazy ride. I just reviewed Orphan First Kill last week, and that movie was insane in itself. This movie takes that and turns it up another notch somehow, which is insane to me, because that movie was already crazy enough. But this movie, just like I said, it's so unpredictable, you just don't know where it's going to go, and the places that it does go are crazy, insane, but entertaining as hell and incredibly enjoyable. If you guys have seen Barbarian, or if you make it out to the theaters this weekend to check it out, please let me know what you thought about it. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more reviews in the future. I'll put all my links down below to my blog and other sites that you can follow me on. And until next time, guys, I'll catch you all later.